Have you ever packed your bags, heart full of excitement, ready to explore a new country, only to discover that your skin color might be the biggest problem? In a world that preaches diversity and tolerance, the bitter truth is, some places still make Black travelers feel unwelcome. From subtle microaggressions to blatant discrimination, the experience of being Black abroad can be dramatically different depending on where you land. And here's the shocking part. Some of the countries on this list might be your dream vacation destinations, or places you've always considered safe and modern. You'll be surprised which country ranks at number 3. You absolutely won't see it coming. We're counting down the top 10 countries where Black people are not welcomed, based on traveler accounts, expat testimonials, racism index scores, and reported incidents. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Let's dive in. Russia is a vast and culturally rich nation, but for many Black travelers and expats, the land of Red Square and vodka comes with a chilling sense of discomfort. Reports of overt racism in Russia are well documented. Numerous African students studying in Russian universities have spoken up about being harassed, followed, or even attacked. Public spaces can feel unwelcoming, especially outside major cities like Moscow or St. Petersburg. In football matches, monkey chants and racist banners against Black players have been reported, sometimes ignored by officials. In 2018, FIFA had to issue warnings during the World Cup hosted there. Many locals simply aren't used to seeing Black people. That unfamiliarity breeds discomfort, stares, and unfortunately, sometimes, open hostility. Even though there's no official policy excluding Black tourists, the social climate can be icy. Russia may be a powerhouse of history and culture, but for Black travelers, it often feels like navigating a land stuck in another era. China's meteoric rise on the global stage hasn't stopped deeply rooted racial biases from bubbling to the surface. Black tourists and residents frequently report being stared at, touched without consent, or followed by strangers. While some interactions stem from curiosity, others are drenched in uncomfortable stereotypes, like assumptions that Black people are violent or dirty. In 2020, a shocking incident in Guangzhou saw several Black residents evicted from their apartments and refused service at hotels during the COVID-19 panic, based solely on their race. The backlash was global, but the core issue remains. In parts of China, being Black can make you a walking target. Even in advertising, China has displayed disturbing tones. A 2016 detergent commercial went viral worldwide for washing a Black man into a Chinese man. Yes, literally. While major cities like Shanghai or Beijing might offer a more cosmopolitan experience, rural areas still harbor isolationist mindsets. China might be booming in tech and business, but racial equality still has a long road ahead. Argentina is the land of tango, steak, and breathtaking landscapes, but when it comes to diversity, it's shockingly behind. With an overwhelmingly white population, Black people in Argentina often feel like anomalies. And being an anomaly here can mean suspicion, stereotyping, and uncomfortable interactions. Black travelers often recount being followed in stores or assumed to be prostitutes or drug dealers. This is especially true in upscale neighborhoods of Buenos Aires. Even more concerning, there's a deep-seated myth among many Argentines that there are no Black people in Argentina, a false belief that erases Afro-Argentine history entirely. Historically, Argentina deliberately tried to whiten its population in the 19th century by encouraging European immigration and downplaying African heritage. That legacy still echoes today in everyday attitudes. So while the country may welcome tourists with open arms on the surface, Black travelers often find themselves battling deep-rooted prejudice that runs quietly, but dangerously, underneath. Serbia may promote itself as a hidden gem of the Balkans, offering scenic rivers, charming towns, and historic sites, but for many Black visitors, that charm wears off quickly. The country has a deep-rooted history of ethnic tension, and though the majority of conflicts in the region have quieted, racial prejudice still runs just beneath the surface. For Black travelers and expats, Serbia can feel like a place of contradictions, friendly on the surface, yet quietly uncomfortable underneath. Black tourists report being stared at constantly, questioned by locals, and even mocked. Some have been denied service in bars and restaurants, or treated rudely without provocation. And because Serbia isn't as internationally diverse as other European nations, many locals still carry outdated, harmful stereotypes about Black people, associating them with crime or inferiority. Students from Africa studying in Belgrade have spoken about being harassed by both citizens and police, and unlike in Western Europe, there's little recourse. Racism here often goes unchecked, unspoken, and unchallenged. The media also plays a role. Negative portrayals, or complete absence of Black people in Serbian media, further widens the gap between perception and reality. Serbia may look beautiful in photos, but the real picture, if you're Black, can be far more troubling. Turkey markets itself as the bridge between East and West, but for Black travelers, that bridge sometimes feels unstable. Many Black tourists report a mixed experience in Turkey. In areas like Istanbul, initial curiosity may lead to friendly conversations. But deeper into the country, or when you step into elite spaces, the tone often shifts. Some Black women report being fetishized, assumed to be sex workers, or treated like novelties. Men frequently recount being stared at aggressively or stopped by police without cause. Black expats and students in Turkey have spoken out about systemic discrimination, especially in employment and housing. One African student described how landlords flat out refused to rent to him just for being Black. There's also a media problem. Turkish TV often portrays Black people in stereotypical or negative roles, which shapes public opinion dangerously. Turkey may have warm beaches and rich history, but for many Black visitors, the warmth doesn't always extend beyond the tourist spots. India's complex relationship with race and color is deeply tied to its long-standing issues with colorism. While India is diverse in its own right, Black travelers and African students often encounter blatant racism. Many report being stared at relentlessly, overcharged in markets, or assumed to be drug dealers or prostitutes. In 2017, a mob in Delhi attacked a group of African students, sparking global outrage. The reason? Locals accused them of corrupting Indian youth without a shred of evidence. The darker your skin, the harsher the treatment. Ironically, India's own population includes millions of dark-skinned people, yet fairness creams still dominate the beauty market, promoting a damaging message. Lighter is better. Black women report high levels of fetishization, while men are often treated with suspicion. And these experiences aren't just anecdotal. They're frequent and widely reported. India's cultural richness can be enchanting, but for Black travelers, it's often overshadowed by deep systemic prejudice. Italy is famed for its art, food, and historic charm, but not always for its openness to diversity. Black travelers have reported subtle and overt racism across Italy. Whether it's being ignored by shopkeepers, followed by security, or treated as invisible in restaurants, the message is often clear: you're not fully welcome. Black Italians, many born and raised there, still struggle with being seen as outsiders. Citizenship laws make it tough for children of African immigrants to be considered Italian despite growing up in the country. Then there's the rise of nationalist movements, some of which have used inflammatory rhetoric against immigrants, particularly those from Africa. This sentiment spills over into everyday life, especially in smaller towns and rural areas. Even football stars like Mario Balotelli, born in Italy, have faced years of racist chants from crowds, despite being national icons. So while Rome's Colosseum may take your breath away, the social climate might leave Black visitors feeling invisible or even targeted. Number 3 might completely catch you off guard: Bosnia and Herzegovina. This small Balkan country isn't often at the top of people's travel lists, but those who go, especially Black travelers, often find themselves in extremely uncomfortable situations. There's almost no visible Black community in the country, which means Black visitors stand out immediately. Travelers report constant staring, whispering, and outright avoidance. In some cases, locals have refused service or taken photos without consent. But here's what's even more disturbing. Some Black tourists have recounted being confronted with outright slurs. And because there's no strong anti-racism discourse in the country, there's very little public pushback against such behavior. While Bosnia is still healing from its own painful ethnic history, its society hasn't had the exposure or education to combat anti-Black racism. The result? A deeply alienating experience for Black visitors, and yet few people talk about it. That's why Bosnia and Herzegovina lands at number 3, not just because of the racism, but because of the silence that surrounds it. Before the war with Russia made headlines, Ukraine already had another crisis: its relationship with race. Black residents and students, especially from Africa, have long reported facing racism in Ukraine. From slurs to assaults to refusals of service, the pattern was already troubling. But the 2022 conflict exposed it on a global scale. As thousands tried to flee the country, videos emerged of Black people being denied access to trains and borders, while white Ukrainians passed freely. The world watched in disbelief. This wasn't just an isolated incident. It was a glimpse into how deeply racial hierarchy operates, even in times of crisis. Ukraine has made efforts to align with European values, but equality and inclusivity still lag behind. And while the country has been devastated by war, Black people there were already fighting a different kind of battle. It's a painful truth, but one that can't be ignored. At number 1 is Belarus, a country often hidden from the mainstream spotlight. But for Black travelers and residents, it can feel like walking through a cold, unwelcoming shadow. Belarus is a tightly controlled state, with limited press freedom, few tourist inflows, and an overwhelmingly homogeneous population. In such an environment, standing out as a Black person often invites the wrong kind of attention. Many African students who've studied in Belarus report frequent racial profiling, being denied entry into clubs or followed by police. Some describe it as living in a time warp, where xenophobia goes unchecked and speaking out brings consequences. The stares are intense, the assumptions even worse. What's even more alarming is the absence of anti-discrimination laws or active civil rights discourse. Without public conversations about racism, prejudice is allowed to fester in silence. There are cases of black residents facing violence with little legal recourse. One Nigerian student was brutally attacked in 2020, and the case quietly disappeared. No international outcry, no local justice. Belarus might not be at war or in the headlines like some others, but that's what makes it even more dangerous. The racism hides behind silence, indifference, and invisibility. For black travelers, Belarus isn't just unwelcoming, it's eerily empty of empathy. And there you have it, 10 countries where being black isn't just a challenge. It can feel like a constant battle for respect, safety, and dignity. This video isn't meant to spread fear, but to shine a light on what often goes unspoken. Because racism isn't just a local issue, it's global. Travel is about freedom, but freedom should never come at the cost of your identity.